Hey, rhythm guitar rockers, this is Mark Turco from rhythmguitarlessons.net, and today I'm going to show you part of a recording of a live stream that I did with Tom Hess from tomhess.net and Deanna DeCabaris from songwritinglessonsonline.com. One of the many topics we were discussing was rhythmic density. It's an interesting subject and definitely worth hearing what they have to say about this topic.
So now, seeing how you still have your guitar in your hand, because I know that you're definitely going to have examples of this, let's talk about rhythmic density.
Okay. So I deployed my main example, which was the Ariana Grande. But I mean, almost all, like, I'm pretty sure if we looked at the top 5, we would find a lot, especially in rap tunes, because they've got, like, they're delivering lots of words during the chorus, and then they will sometimes have little sung bits in the in the choruses. But essentially, the more something's subdivided, it kind of sounds faster. We have more of an impression of time moving. And when something when the notes are longer and they last for longer, we have more of a feeling of space. So that contrast between things being busy and things being spacious is also something that we can deploy to musical effect for contrast. And you can have, it could apply to what the melody's doing, it could apply to what the guitar parts are doing, it could apply to what somebody else in the band is doing. It could, I'm sure if you've got a lineup where you've got bass and drums and guitar, you can definitely do this quite easily without needing to do musically really sophisticated things. Your drummer can come in with one thing, and your bass player can come in with, if your drummer's doing quarter notes to begin with, and your bass player can come in with eighth notes, and then your drummer can add in hi-hats, and then you might come in with like a long sustained guitar chord. And so you can build up a texture using those contrasting rhythms very easily. If you're doing it by yourself and you're on your own, you can still do things in a sequence, because every time you play one rhythm, that is hanging around in the memory of the people listening. And when you do another rhythm next, there's a sort of mind echo of what they've just heard. And so you can create like almost imperceptible but effective by sequencing different parts and different subdivisions. So, I mean, quite a nice exercise to try this out is to play with note length and set yourself a little task to create a motif that's got a lot of long notes, or that has 2 long notes and a short note, or 2 short notes and a long note, and experiment with bringing that in on different beats of the bar, and then maybe do the inverse of it. If you had short note, long note, short note, then perhaps have 3 short notes or something for a different section. And then you'll really get a feeling of how that tends to influence how it sounds. It's very easy. I've always been interested in having lots of chords, and sometimes when you have a lot of songs in a row that have a lot of chords, it's a bit indigestible for the listener. And there was one particular song where I had tons of chords, and it still sounded like a bit monotonous, and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized it was because I had the exact same da 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 kind of eighth note rhythm that was driving both the melody of the chorus and the melody of the verse, and it just was too repetitive. And because rhythm's such a powerful element, despite all the variety in other places, it still was feeling a little bit plodding. So even if you just audit what you've written, or you audit what is happening in terms of the note spacing in your favorite songs, you'll start getting a sense of what appeals to you rhythmically, and then you can use those principles to recreate them in the things that you want to do.
Very cool. Tom Hess, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to Deanna mentioned something fairly quickly, and I want to just make sure that everyone was able to really hear that and think about it. So rhythmic density is about how much you take a beat and divide it. Okay, it's not really about tempo. So tempo is the speed of the beat, how fast beats go by. Okay, that's what tempo is. The speed. The definition of tempo is the speed of the beat. Okay, rhythmic density really is more about divisions. If you've got a beat, a pulse that's going like this, how many rhythmic events happen in between those beats or within the whole measure? So I've drawn out here a couple of measures. Here we have quarter notes. Okay, so this is a fairly thin rhythmic density. It's not very dense. These beats are not being divided. Okay. Here we have eighth notes, and here we're dividing the beat into two parts. Okay. So now the rhythmic density has just doubled. And over here, we've got 16th notes. So now we're dividing the beat into four parts. So it sounds like we're getting faster, but the tempo is not changed. The speed of the beat is exactly the same. Let's say it's 100 beats per minute or whatever it is, but the divisions are getting more. We're dividing the beat into smaller and smaller parts. So, of course, that means we're playing faster notes, but that doesn't mean the tempo is any faster. It is not. Okay. So, one other thing that Deanna said is that when you're playing by yourself, you can certainly play a rhythm like this, and you can increase or decrease the rhythmic density by simply dividing the beat into smaller and smaller parts or bigger parts if you want to go the other way. But when you're playing in a band, you can have a situation where every individual player is playing with a thin rhythmic density. No one is playing 16th notes. No one's playing very fast. They could all be playing this. But you can create an overall very thick, very dense rhythmic density if you simply displace this by, let's say, a 16th note. So let's say the drummer is playing this. And let's say a guitar player is playing essentially the same thing, but it's shifted over by a 16th note. So they're still playing the equivalent of quarter notes, but it's happening here. It's happening after those little dots. It's happening after the downbeat. So this is the E of one. So 1E, 2E, 3E. Then maybe another player is playing on the and they're only playing the equivalent of quarter notes. Okay. They're just playing on, it's syncopated. They're playing on the ands of the beats. Okay. So everybody could be playing the equivalent of a quarter note, but you could create this feel. It's just that every one of these rhythmic events could be happening by a different person in the band. Okay. So in other words, everyone's playing slow, but the overall effect is something faster. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat if that makes sense. I want to make sure that everyone is clear on that. There's a little time delay, so it'll take a moment before they actually heard what I just said and write it in the chat, if it's clear or not. But that's it's something that you can do, and Deanna alluded to it, but I wanted to just sort of write it out because it's a really cool idea what she was sharing.
I want to thank Tom Hess and Deanna for being my guests on that YouTube Live and providing us with that great information. Let me know in the comment section what other topics you would like me to make new videos on. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and set your notifications so you will know when I create a new video. Remember, always have fun with your guitar, and I'll see you next time. If you like that video, you're going to love this brand new e-guide that's totally free. The link is in this video's description, or you can go to rhythmguitarlessons.net/P, lowercase r, lowercase o.